Hello and welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Michael Verrill and I'm the Vice President of Strategic Development with the Sharp Financial Group. We provide a unique process of integrated financial management, combining accounting and tax, business advisory, wealth management, and capital solutions to help private business owners maximize business value, increase cash flow, reduce tax liability, and create a plan for liquidity to create long-term family wealth and future legacy. Thank you for joining us for our continued discussion on growth stories, where we hear from entrepreneurs and advisors who share secrets and advice on what business owners need to know to grow. From time to time, issues involving technology, life sciences, or healthcare companies may be discussed on this show. Those discussions should not be viewed as financial advice. Moreover, since the show is pre-recorded and shown at a later date, some of that discussion may no longer be relevant. You should always seek advice from your financial advisor before entering into any financial transaction. I'm joined today by my co-host, Rija Bears. Rija is a vice president with CBRE, a global real estate consulting firm. Rija has spent over 15 years providing research and consulting to corporate occupiers of space. Rija also heads up the technology and media practices in Philadelphia, where she helps high-growth companies develop real estate strategies to support their business objectives. Rija also serves on the program and outreach committees for Tech Girls, an organization that focuses on exposing middle school age girls to careers in technology. Rija, it's great to see you again. How are you?
Thanks, Mike. I'm great. Thanks for having me again.
No problem. Welcome back. I know you're out in the real estate market making things happen. I was curious as we enter 2019 here, are you seeing any shifts in the market? I know it's been a very landlord-friendly market. Is it shifting towards the tenant, or do you foresee that in the near future?
Yeah, it has really shifted in a bunch of the different submarkets in the area towards a tenant it continues to be a landlord market. Just overall economics in 2019, I heard from a representative at the NASDAQ last week. This week I sat at the Chamber of Commerce forecast for 2019, and the chief economist from Vanguard spoke, and he said it best: down but not out.
Down but not out.
Yeah, we're bullish on 19,
Yeah.
so we'll put our heads down and keep going and see what 2020 brings.
Yeah, I think the way 2018 was ending, I think people thought it might start sooner, but yeah, we're seeing that too, maybe pushed off to as late as 2021. So that'd be nice.
That's
A couple
great.
more years of prosperity
Absolutely.
here would be good for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Before we introduce our guest, we have a question from one of our viewers.
Okay.
Janet Waldron from Wayne would like to know, how will the rising interest rates affect the commercial real estate market?
Sure, that's a great question, Janet. Thanks. Usually people sit back and they talk about interest rates and the rise in interest rates being directly correlated with the rise in capitalization rates, which results in really lower returns on commercial real estate properties. But that's not the full story. Demand really is what drives the occupancy and net operating income on these properties. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of factors: CEO confidence, sales growth, revenues. All of these things will play into it, and it really depends on labor markets.
Okay, so more to come. We'll keep an eye on the
More to
labor
come.
markets in particular.
Absolutely.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
It's always great to hear from our viewers. To send or submit for a future show, here's how to send your questions to Money Matters TV.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Being a businesswoman in a male-dominated industry, unfortunately, can create some barriers to success. Through determination and a focus on being the most prepared person in the room, this next guest has been successful not once but twice and overcome those roadblocks in two separate industries. We are pleased to have join us today Lisa Smith, president of J A Moody. Lisa, Rhea, and I are happy to welcome you to Money Matters TV and our segment on growth stories. Before we get started with the interview, we'd like to see if you could give us an overview of J A Moody and what your company does.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Michael. J A Moody is a distribution company, and we sell and distribute across the country valves and actuators to the U.S. Navy and commercial shipping clients. We also have a repair division, which is called Moody Marine Services, where we repair the valves and actuators for all of our clients. Most recently, about a year and a half ago, we bought Pima Valve, which is a manufacturing company out in Arizona, and we make the valves. So the organization that I run, we make the valves, we sell the valves, and we repair the valves. It's a full service organization.
That's great. Every piece of the supply chain there.
Pretty much. We've still got a little bit of work to do.
Okay, well, more to come. Well, that's great.
Yeah,
well,
thank you.
Thank you.
So in the introduction, Mike mentioned that you were successful in two different male-dominated industries, and as a woman in a similarly male-dominated industry, I'm really looking forward to hearing your story. Can you give us a little bit of context of your upbringing and what attributes that you developed from your childhood that maybe focused you and prepared you for this role?
Oh, sure. So the two industries that I've been working with in my lifetime have been financial services, which I did right out of college, and that was very male-dominated. And most recently, I've been working with J A Moody for the past 7 years with the U.S. Navy and the Department of Defense, also another male-dominated industry.
Right. Probably two of the most male-dominated industries, right?
It's been a blessing.
Yeah.
What I think helped me in my childhood is I went to an all-girls school where I was taught from a very young age that we can do anything we set our mind to, just with sheer willpower and determination. And so I always believed that I could be successful wherever I went.
Right.
Also, I had a father that was very encouraging. He helped mentor me, and by watching what he did and learning his story, it just made me more excited to succeed in the world.
Right. Tell us a little bit more about his background. What was his business? What was he involved in?
Sure. So my dad was an entrepreneur at an early age. He didn't have it easy. He had a young family. He had me, and he put himself through night school while he had his first job. And then he quickly realized he didn't want to work for anybody. He wanted to be his own boss.
Right.
And so he taught that to me at a young age, be your own boss. He worked in some chemical alloy companies before he got involved with J A Moody, which he purchased about 30 years ago.
Oh, wow, okay.
He always told me this. He said, get into a company that's a niche company. Get into a company that is insulated from the ups and downs of the economy. And so with this company, J A Moody, the barrier to entrance is very high because we've got to do government contracting, and that's a high learning curve.
Right.
And also the valves that we sell are very, very specific. They're mill specified. They've been through a lot of shock and vibe testing in order to sustain survivability on our Navy ships.
Right.
And so it's hard. Not everybody can sell these valves. Not everyone understands these valves. And not everyone can start another company like J A Moody. So we're pretty insulated, and that's what we look for as we buy other companies. You know, what is going to survive ups and downs with the economy in the future.
Well, that's a great business model. So out of college, though, you mentioned financial services. Your father was an entrepreneur. He had J A Moody and some other businesses, but something else that he was very interested in kind of piqued your interest, and that was, I guess you said he was very involved in the stock market and reading the Wall Street Journal every day. I'm assuming that's what got you interested initially in financial services. How did you make that
That's
transition?
right, Michael. I always saw my dad reading the Wall Street Journal every day, and I was so excited and wanted to learn what he was learning. And I was always fascinated with the stock market. And so as a young girl, when I was 15 and 16, I started a stock market club at my school, and I was able to raise money. We all had bake sales. We did everything we could to raise money.
Right.
And we bought different stocks. And we had a club. We met every week, and I used every stockbroker that I could get in touch with to invite them to come teach us. And we learned about the stock market by having stockbrokers come visit us.
Right.
I was then lucky enough to have an internship at a brokerage firm when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
And he became a mentor of mine. I stay in touch with him still.
Okay.
And he told me, as I was getting ready to get prepared to go to college, he said, Lisa, become well-rounded. That's going to serve you well in the future.
Uh-huh.
You don't need to know specifics right now. You need to be able to communicate, you need to be able to write well, and you need to be able to interact with people.
Yeah.
And then when you're on the job, that's when you hone in on your skills.
Right, right.
And so I followed that advice, and I became an international relations major
Okay.
at Bucknell University, and I had a minor in French, none of which helps me right now in my job. But, you know, my background in being able to communicate and to write a succinct letter and to
Right.
be able to work with different people, that's helped me.
So Lisa, when you first got out of school and you started with Janney Montgomery Scott, the stockbroker role was really male dominated. What skills did you use to succeed in that role?
Well, I used the skills that I learned from high school, which is to always be prepared. Be as prepared as anyone in the room, and more so. And when you commit to something and you promise to deliver something, you darn well better do that.
Yeah.
And so my clients and the other colleagues that worked with me, they knew if I said I would do something that I would do it. And I think that went a long way, and it helped me grow as a stockbroker. It helped me grow in my career, and I ended up being the number 2 person in our RAP management program, where we dealt with high net worth individuals with $100,000 or more and pension plans, and we helped find them an investment management consultant.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great attribute to take throughout life, really.
So that success at Janney, that led you to another opportunity to out of town, right? Out of Philadelphia?
Yeah,
Where'd
so
you-
in my mid-20s, I think I was 25, I was recruited to take on the number 1 role at a money management department at another regional brokerage firm called Roney and Company, and that was in Detroit, Michigan.
Wow.
And so I was really fortunate that I was able to work there, learn a lot, help grow the company, and I was offered to become a partner. And I'm honored to be able to say that I was the youngest partner at Roney and Company,
Wow, that's
and
quite an
one of very
accomplishment.
few
That's-
females.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's tremendous. You're out in Detroit. You moved from Philadelphia. You'd grown up here. You're thinking about getting back, or what was going on from a personal standpoint at that time?
Well, I was a very driven career woman in my early 20s and mid 20s. My headhunter, who brought me out for that job, actually introduced me on a blind date to my husband. So
the
he was
recruiter was
he was full service.
yeah, that's
Matchmaker.
fantastic.
He actually got me my first house in Michigan,
Oh my gosh.
and
That's great.
I ended up getting married, and worked for, 5 or 6 more years,
Okay.
and then I ended up having children.
Okay.
And decided to make the decision to stay home and raise my children. I was in the position where I could,
Right.
Great.
and I took advantage of that. I stayed home about 11 or 12 years.
Was that a
And
tough
raise my
transition to
children.
make from high-powered career woman driving successful and then stay home and raise the children, or what was that? What was going on in your mind through that process?
It was difficult. And I did the best that I could. I threw a lot of my energy into working with nonprofit women organizations,
Okay.
and I helped develop a lot of fundraisers for them. I've published many cookbooks,
Okay.
about 35,000 copies of cookbooks
Oh wow.
to sell for various women's nonprofit organizations.
That was fundraising. raising
Yes.
money. Oh,
And so
interesting.
again, I'm using my sales background, using my
Right.
ability to connect people,
Yeah.
and I just threw myself into that. And my kids then were growing up quickly. It goes so fast.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm very glad that I had that time
Right.
with them when they were younger. And then recently, about 7 or 8 years ago, my father called me up. I was a stay-at-home mother. He said, Lisa, I want to keep the business in the family. How about coming to work for me? I'll teach you everything you need to know, and we'll keep the business in the family.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And that was totally out of the blue.
Out of the blue. Did not even know what my father did at this point. So I said, valve? What's a valve? Actuator. How do you spell actuator?
Right.
And now, fast forward, I live and breathe and sleep valves and actuators. In fact, I been called the queen of valves because there are not that many women in the industry.
Right.
And
Lots of kings, but only a few queens.
Yeah,
Or only one
so
queen, probably, right?
It's really funny nickname. So, but I took my dad up. It was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. I was ready to get back into the workforce, and you don't come across these opportunities,
Right.
At my age, and being offered a chance to learn a whole new industry and to learn all kinds of new things and to travel the country.
Yeah.
And so my husband kicked me out of the door. He said, "You go back to work."
Right.
And so now I was very fortunate. My father has groomed me over the past 7 years, and we've just taken it to another level that he had not taken it before I joined.
Right, interesting. So your father had owned the company for a little over 20 years, right? Before he brought you in?
Yeah, almost 24 years probably.
24 years. So what was that like, coming into that environment? Your father had run this company. It wasn't his company. He bought it from somebody else, I believe, right? He bought it from the founder?
He brought it from another family.
Okay.
And when I got there, I had a new set of eyes. I was trying to be a sponge, learning everything I could, and then coming up with some ideas slowly, like how can we grow this company? It stayed the same level for 5 or 6 years, and obviously I wanted to put my imprint on this company. So after learning as much as I could, by really shadowing my dad, listening to every phone call, attending every meeting, reading every publication you can about Marine and Navy and Department of Defense, I started coming up with some ideas.
Wow.
And I started out with growing the sales department.
Okay.
And we looked at expanding our territories, which we did. We looked at becoming stronger in the commercial shipping world, because 98% of our business at that time was strictly Navy.
Okay. So
So
very
we started-
dependent on the government side of it.
We started diversifying our client base as much as we could. What else did we do? We started looking into new territories, different countries to sell to. And we grew our service department. Service, is as the government does not have as much money, and they slowed down funding, and we had sequestration going on. We thought, well, they're trying to extend the life of these Navy ships, which means things are going to be breaking down more, which means we should really be ramping up our repair business. That has worked out really well. We've seen tremendous growth on that side of our business.
That's
and
great.
in fact, we just opened up an office in San Diego that caters to the West Coast ship availabilities. And we just did that in November.
Yeah, okay. So you saw a trend of more ships being stored and in and out on the West Coast?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. In addition, my father and I decided we wanted more control. We didn't want to just be the middleman anymore. So we were fortunate enough to come across a company that we sold their valves for many years, called Pima Valve. And we were able to purchase that company from another family. And we did that about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
It's out in Arizona.
Okay.
It's on a Native American Indian tribe land.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
We employ about 40% Native Americans.
Okay.
That's great.
And that has been a whole nother world of learning for us.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine.
Yeah. And these valves that Pima, that we manufacture now, we get to sell through J A Moody. We get to repair through Moody Marine Services. And these valves are on every Navy ship class.
Wow, that's incredible.
That's great.
So it was a really good fit for us. And I'm
Really
glad
nice
my father
brand.
and I were able to encourage each other to take this step, to grow the company.
How much, when you came into the company, how much did you work to, I don't know if change the culture is the right word. I'm sure your father's culture was similar to how you would run things, but when you run a company for 20 plus years and technology moves so quickly, were there a lot of things or opportunities you saw in the company when you first got there to make changes and kind of enhance the way they did business?
Yes, there really was. I saw an opportunity to bring the company from the 1980s up into the 21st century.
Uh-huh.
We upgraded our back office system
Okay.
with a new ERP system.
Okay.
We started creating a lot of marketing materials. We started having a website presence.
Okay.
We started using LinkedIn.
Right.
Anybody who had the attitude that, oh, we're not going to do it that way because we do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not open to listening to some ideas, that's kind of not the type of person that I want to
Yeah.
grow with. And so we had to make a couple changes so
Okay.
that we could unlock the potential that was just right there, all the low-hanging fruit
Right.
that I saw. We unlocked that.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
we were just able to really make 1 and 1 equal 3, not 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And kudos to your father for being very supportive of that, right? He could have said, Lisa, it's been successful, come in and help me run this, but, we know what we're doing. But it sounds like he was very open to saying,
You
you
know,
tell me.
I really am fortunate. My father is very willing to change. He's willing to grow, and he's excited by that.
Uh-huh.
And so together we've been able to do this.
That's neat.
And I
That's
don't
great.
think a lot of people, he could have just sat on his laurels.
Yeah.
But he's out at Pima Valve this week. He's
Right.
out on the
Right,
floor making
right.
sure those valves are being shipped out on time.
Well, my guess is he's your father and you're his daughter. He's sitting on his laurels. It's not in his DNA.
It's not- I don't
It doesn't
think so.
sound like that's what he passed down to you.
No.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I mean, obviously, you've got an exciting story here. I'm just curious. Are you going to continue to make acquisitions with other manufacturers? What do you think your strategy, your next kind of phase of strategy for continued growth is?
Good question. We are looking at purchasing various product lines that we can bring into our manufacturing facility.
Okay.
And these are product lines that are very niche oriented to the Navy. So again, high barrier to entrance
Mm-hmm.
and specialized product, high price points.
Right.
But we have the expertise. We have the people that have the expertise that speak the Navy language,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a good fit for us.
Right.
So that's something that we're looking at doing later in 2019.
Okay.
That's
So
great.
continue to look at adding additional companies that provide those niche products.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great.
Just from to change a little bit of direction, when you're talking to young entrepreneurs that are looking for advice, what kind of advice would you give them?
Great question. So I always say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I always encourage young people to not be shy, to ask questions. If you don't understand something, say, I don't understand. Can you please explain this to me? There's nothing wrong with that. And if you don't know the answer, say that too, because people want to help people succeed.
Yeah, no doubt.
And don't feel self-conscious.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, as a woman, I think not taking things personally. It's business. It's nothing personal. And I think if you have that mindset, it'll help you out a lot in the future.
Takes you far.
Yeah, it does.
That's great. And just from the perspective, we always like to ask guests about favorite books or books that have been impactful on their careers in life.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite book that you could share with us?
Well, recently, about maybe 2 years ago, I came across this book called Extreme Ownership: How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. And I was able to meet the author. His name is Jocko Willnek, and he spoke at a Navy trade show that I was at. And it was just fascinating to see him in person. And he's exactly like he sounds it when you read the book. But there's a chapter on check your ego. And Navy SEALs, they work as a team. That's why they're successful.
Right.
And when you're in business, you need to work as a team. It's not Lisa Smith show. It's Lisa plus all of her valuable employees that support what we're trying to accomplish. And so you need to check your ego. You need to work with other people, and you need to promote them as being the reason for your success.
Yeah, that's great advice. It sounds like a very interesting book to read.
I would recommend it.
Yeah.
It's really a good book.
Do you use any of that, the book, with your employees? Have you put in any kind of training or exercises where they kind of use some of those principles?
I do try to do some team building.
Mm-hmm.
We try to do that once a year at a trade show. And we actually had a kind of silly team building one that we just did down in New Orleans,
Okay.
where we did a scavenger hunt as a team. And we had to work together,
Right.
not knowing the city.
Uh-huh.
And we all accomplished what we needed to accomplish, and we got to know each other, and we got to see how each other's minds work and
Right.
how to figure out
Right.
different, puzzles and stuff like that. So it had nothing to do with work, but it got people working in the right direction and
Yeah.
working as a team.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of qualities do you look for when you're looking to hire new people? I mean, what's important to you when you're evaluating new hires?
Good question. I look for honesty and integrity, of course.
Mhm.
I look for somebody who's hungry, somebody who wants to work hard and sees himself growing with the company.
Right. Right.
Someone that is not, that doesn't have an ego. Someone that wants to work with people,
Right.
and
Right.
it's not all the Dave show
yeah.
or the Mike show. It's I'm part of this organization, and together we're going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that kind of attitude is what I'm attracted to in hiring people.
That's great.
That
That's
is
great.
great.
Well, one thing too, I was curious. What you learn in financial services and the preparedness, and now doing the same thing for J A Moody. How do you communicate that? Obviously, hiring the right people is important, but how do you communicate that kind of positioning or way you look at things to your employees? Is that something like, what else do you do to build that into the culture? You have the team building, you hire the right people.
Yeah, what I do is when I have meetings and I want everybody to listen to the same stuff and understand more than what's just their job function, like to really understand how this all plays together to make this a successful company. I invite them to sit in on the meetings so that they get a bigger perspective of what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
So maybe somebody in shipping doesn't really understand what that why that proposal is so important. Well, when he sits in on the meetings, he starts to see the big picture.
Sure.
The other thing I do is when we have visitors to our offices, I let everybody know. I say, this person is coming to visit J A Moody. He's coming because of this reason, and I want them to understand the big picture. Why is this manufacturer visiting it? Why is it important to the growth of our company and the success of our company? So I want to share everything I can with my employees so that they are all rowing in the same direction as I am.
That's great. That's great. So, I think we have entrepreneurs as viewers, and hopefully women entrepreneurs too. What are one or two pieces of advice that you want to give to a woman entrepreneur trying to create or replicate the kind of success that you've had?
Oh, thank you so much. That's embarrassing. I would say do and deliver what you say you're going to do, and over deliver.
Right.
Follow up. Become the squeaky wheel.
Okay.
And that works.
Yeah.
People remember you. They say, that's the girl that gets things done.
Right. Right.
And they
the
wanna
queen of
do-
valves, right?
Right.
Be
And
the
they-
queen of valves. The
and
queen
they-
of whatever your thing
Right.
is, be that.
They want
Right.
to do business with people that they can depend on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they want to do business with people they like to do business with.
Yeah,
Right.
excellent. This has been great, Lisa. We really appreciate your time. Rita
Oh,
and I
thank
really
you.
enjoyed
Thank you.
learning more about the J A Moody and the Lisa Smith story. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I would like to thank you, Lisa, and the co-host Rhea Bears. The next guest on Money Matters TV will be Claudia Wirt of Wirt Investment Consulting Group. As a reminder, you can download the podcast from iTunes and Stitcher, as well as see our programs on our YouTube channel, Money Matters TV. Thank you for joining us for Growth Stories.